Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in with us. My name is Shannon, and I am the project manager with From Allies to Abolitionists. And I have a bunch of really amazing friends here with me today, and we're all going to be talking about the Center for Popular Democracy and the upcoming Transformation 2020 Summit. And so it's a virtual event this year, which is really amazing. So most of you are probably watching from Denver or somewhere in Colorado. So you'll be able to tune in and participate with people from around the country. And we wanted to give you a sneak preview to what it might be like so that you would want to participate. So I'm gonna ask that all of my friends here just introduce yourselves and what organization you represent.
All right, I'll kick it off. I'm Adrienne Becker. I'm the CEO of Level Forward. We make movies and television and plays and musicals and Broadway and a little bit of technology. And we are the arts and culture partner to this amazing and long-awaited and urgent event, the Center for Popular Democracy's Transformation 2020.
Thank you.
Ladies first.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Delilah Rothenberg, and I'm the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called the Predistribution Initiative. And we're really focused on how actors in the financial services industry can pay more attention to their investment structures so that they don't have negative impacts on other stakeholders like civil society and workers and communities, and how they can improve their positive impacts. And so we've been working very closely with the Center for Popular Democracy on a track about finance to bring together folks who work in the financial services industry to talk about their work, and to bring together folks from the CPD, Center for Popular Democracy community, to talk about their perspectives as well. And we are very enthusiastic that there will be some good two-way learning at the convention and opportunities to engage. So we hope you can join us.
All right. And my name is Jeff Campbell. I am a guerrilla storyteller. I am the artistic director of Emancipation Theater. And our purpose is that storytelling amplifies us. And when it amplifies us, it turns the volume down on the not us. It turns the volume down on the us against them. It turns the volume down on the other. And so we know the power of storytelling, and we're not afraid to use it. It's the gateway drug to empathy. So that's what we're all about. And I'm also the chair for the Justice for Raverro campaign. In April 20th of 2018, Raverro Stinnett left Red Line Community Gallery in Denver to Union Station, where he was harassed repeatedly and then assaulted. So his friends gathered to create a campaign to advocate on his behalf, and we've been fighting since then. And so that is how we've connected to the Center for Popular Democracy and the Transformation 2020. And we will be presenting our campaign at the convention.
Thank you. Adrienne, can you give us kind of a broad overview, maybe just a little bit about what is the Center for Popular Democracy, and then what can people expect at Transformation 2020?
Absolutely. So I am not the best to talk about what the work of the Center for Popular Democracy is, but I can give you my take on it, which is that it is the largest community organizing entity in the country. They have 55 affiliates nationwide. Those affiliates are largely led by women, and in fact, women of color. And they are the folks on the ground instigating and organizing the efforts on behalf of people who care about different issues and civic actions in their community, but don't necessarily have a course of consequence or a course of agency, or aren't perceived to have something. So CPD empowers them. CPD provides access. resources, intelligence gathering, so that folks can kind of connect what they lack and what they need with how they can act to get that, or at least to communicate that. And some of those actions take the place of telling stories. Some of them have to do with organizing the lobby and elected officials. Some of it might have to do with gathering resources to provide a service that the community is not receiving from the state or from the city. So they really are an essential kind of on the ground partner to people who are not a part of the traditional power structures. And this event is really their brainchild. And one of our colleagues, Abini Bloodworth, kind of took a look at, the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention, and clearly like understanding that one of those is more progressive minded than the other, but really wanting to invite people who aren't invited to those formal conversations into a space where they are welcomed, and where they are welcomed to learn and to share, and as Delilah said so eloquently, kind of a two-way learning process. And our role in that is to provide people who are professional storytellers, who are focused on driving stories that have meaningful social consequences, meaningful impact, and are accountable for their stories. So everything from the documentary Crip Camp, which tells the story of the passing of the Americans with Disabilities Act and how that all happened, really through the eyes and ears of a woman named Judy Heumann, who was the first advocate to really organize the ADA movement and make progress, to a little documentary called Purple Dreams about the first staging of the color purple at a high school in Illinois, and a high school that was dealing with a lot of violence and trauma in their community at the same time that they were staging this musical. We've brought in plays like What the Constitution Means to Me, which is a story about how this 233-year-old document is actually very connected to everything going on in our world right now, and that we all can use that document and can help shape that document and put it to work for people who aren't as recognized because they're not named as women, or they're not named as part of, not like the white, male, cisgendered, hegemonic power structure of our founding fathers. And there are going to be amazing conversations like Ibram X. Kendi, the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, and Nicole Hannah-Jones, the creator of the 1619 Project, along with Alderwoman Robin Ruth Simmons, who passed the first reparations bill in Evanston, Illinois. They are going to be talking about reparations, and not specifically what happened in Evanston, but like the concept of it and why it has to be a part of, the country's reckoning with racial injustice for, centuries, multiple centuries. So there's just an amazing menu of world-class performers, writers, thinkers that CPD is delivering to people, all for the low price of $25. There are discount codes out there, so hunt them down or email anyone on this Zoom and we'll try to get you on.
Yes, thank you. Jeff and Delilah, what are some sessions or people that you're excited about hearing from at Transformation 2020?
Jeff, I went first last time.
Okay. Elizabeth Warren is a person I'm excited to hear from. She's always exciting when she speaks. Trevor Noah, I think a lot of what Trevor does is what we aspire to do in the local realm, in the theater realm, in terms of social commentary. And his humor is very effective in that way. In addition to that, Ta-Nehisi Coates is another person. Angela Davis is someone that I'm interested. Delilah Rothenberg, I'm excited to hear from Delilah Rothenberg. So I'm just excited overall, most of all, just humbled and honored to be a part of such an incredible production, such an incredible event that really, in the title, in and of itself, it really sums it up is transformation. That's exactly what we need. And we've got the folks with the power to do it on this as a part of this event. So I'm really excited about it.
I mean, I would just echo my enthusiasm for the speakers and programming that Jeff and Adrian just mentioned. And personally, I want to find more time to go through the agenda and sort of curate my upcoming few days. There's so much to explore and to consider, and different sessions to go to on different topics. So I think that there will be something for everybody, and you might even be conflicted about what session to go to at different times because there's so much good stuff. And I am particularly enthusiastic to go to the session that Jeff and Shannon are doing. And this is, I appreciate your shout out, Jeff, but I'm really excited to go to your session because I think that you've done a lot of work on an important issue in terms of the Justice for Raverro campaign, and it's important to learn from.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited about it too. So yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about that? From Allies to Abolitionists is a group that Jeff started here in Denver and is a project of Emancipation Theater, which is really powerful in terms of activating the everyday citizen into community work and activism, which is what got me so excited to participate in the group and take on a leadership role. So I'm very excited to just talk about that in itself, but also the work we've been able to do in the Justice for Raverro campaign. So Jeff, can you share a little bit about what we're planning for our session?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned before about Raverro Stinnett in 2018 was assaulted by Allied Universal Security Service officers, 4 officers. They did wind up confessing and going to jail, but there was no justice for Raverro, no settlement. And the man, he got permanent brain damage as a result of that assault. And so there's been no settlement. His livelihood has been taken away from him. And so in May of this year, I was contacted by a good friend, PJ D'Amico, who is a part of the Center for Popular Democracy. And he asked me to be a part of the art committee to create some art around the Justice for Raverro campaign. But the campaign was fledgling and they were having trouble organizing and just trouble in general getting visibility. And so.
Oh, Jeff,
Oops. Yeah, I don't know why that happened. I got to move my cursor away from the microphone there. So they asked me to use my platform as a performer and a public speaker to help garner more visibility about the campaign itself. So we did a public service announcement. We attached it to a petition, and we got about 40,000 views on that public service announcement. We got about 4,000 signatures on the petition. And we engaged in the civic process. We engaged in the public comment at RTD, their directors' meetings. We held a press conference. We had an incredible research team that was chaired by Shannon, and they compiled over 150 cases around the country that Allied has open on with just brutality, violence, and just discrimination. Excuse me. So we have been engaging in that process, And in our engagement, we teamed up with a director of RTD, Miss Chantel Lewis, who will be on the panel. And she has written a resolution to terminate the relationship with RTD in the city, and then to form a workers group that would reimagine safety and security in public transit. Although the resolution was voted down unanimously, that demand has been met, and we're in the process of forming that citizen-driven working group with legislators as we speak. So I feel like we've accomplished that, as well as just raising the awareness and support. And through PJ D'Amico and Beanie Bloodworth, who I worked with back in 2016 in Griffin, Georgia, working to work with veterans, to create sanctuaries with veterans. So me and Beanie, we go back. So we work together on that, and connecting with them, they connected us to CPD and Adrian and Delilah. And we've been working with Delilah and her group to look at the private equity firms and who is investing in Allied Universal Security, to really knock on their door and say, hey, do you really want your money going in this direction with a company that operates like this? And we're just working to, raise the profile of this case to a national level, because Raverro is just the example. He's not the exception in any regard. So we'll also have on the panel Brother Qusair Mohammed Bai, who is the legal representation for Raverro Stinnett. In addition to, we will have one of the members of the research team, Mr. Justin Bai, who has put together a comprehensive PowerPoint presentation that highlights what reimagining safety and security could really look like for public transit here in Denver, modeled after what they're doing in Portland, what they're doing in San Francisco, and what they're doing in Los Angeles, with navigators and ambassadors, unarmed folks trained in mental health to really deter the proliferation of the confusion that usually causes the violence. So I'm excited about, getting that information out there and being an instrumental part in the transformation.
And just to give a plug too, that this campaign is ongoing. So if you're, again, watching Colorado or Denver, there are ways to be involved with pushing for this working group or being a part of it. So please reach out to us. Adrian, it looks like you're about to.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, and I have to unfortunately go to like one of those practical rehearsal meetings now, but Jeff, in listening to you and also being a part of this process, there's something so beautiful about this whole process that I think the audience should really hear from all of you. And that is how, Jeff, you talked about amplification. You are having a hard time getting traction for people paying attention to this, because it's not as if the story is not horrendous and important for everyone, but there is so much out there in the world in this moment and in every moment. And just because we have social media now and we have, the ability to publish and present our own thing, it doesn't make it any easier, because the bar just gets higher on what's needed to break through when you have something that's so urgent and critical, like for democracy or for society or for safety. And you said something and it made me think, you talked about reimagination, and I wrote down reimagination enabled by community. The only way that this all came together is because you knew a Beanie, and a Beanie knew PJ, and a Beanie knew Delilah, and Delilah knew me, and that is community across gender, across race, across every other wedge that is put in our way, coming together to basically say, okay, we are committed to this story and making sure that people know what's going on and we can engage people and give them ways of helping so that Raverro's life is now not in vain and his story is shared by everyone and we can all find connection points and ways of activating. So reimagination enabled by community. And that to me is a big part of what this event is giving us. It's giving us a community and it's giving us a way to all reimagine together and informed by all these really smart people who know a lot about these various topics.
Mm-hmm.
Shannon, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Adrienne. We'll see you soon.
All right, bye everyone.
So one of those really smart people that Adrienne referred to is Delilah Rothenberg, and we get to be in these meetings regularly, and I'm always like, she's so smart. So I genuinely like am honored to get to work with you, and have learned a lot from you about, yeah, like I think you know, my experience comes from like organizing in Memphis and then moving here to Denver. And so like, you know, most of my experiences have been with people on the ground, grassroots organizations. So getting to talk to you has been like, oh, it's a similar sort of like mentality, but it's just a different sort of playing field, I guess, if you will. So I guess, Delilah, with that, can you talk to us about what your session is about and maybe what you hope to give folks the tools to be able to do?
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. That's a real honor to hear from you. So thank you. And I hope I live up to people's expectations. So my background's in private equity, and just as context for anybody listening, I interned when I was in college. I guess the year must have been 2002 or 2003 for an affiliate organization of the Center for Popular Democracy called Make the Road by Walking. Now it's called Make the Road, and it's not just based in New York anymore, but it's across the U.S. And one of the core areas of focus for that organization is immigration and immigrant rights and advocacy for undocumented people. And they weave in a lot of other issues and advocacy in the immigration issue as well. But it was just such an important part of my life and helped shape a lot of my thinking. And so I stayed in touch with one of the co-founders who I interned for from Make the Road over the years. And I ended up going into finance because I was interested in attracting capital to underserved areas of the world. And I was particularly interested in sub-Saharan Africa. I thought that if investors started to invest some of their money in small, medium-sized enterprises there, the small, medium-sized enterprises could create jobs. And the societies in Africa wouldn't have to be so dependent on big multinational corporations or foreign aid. And there are a lot of, issues with that I've learned over the years, that sort of conceptual idea of a solution. But, the same thing could be said here in the United States that, okay, maybe it's good for capital to go to underserved areas and marginalized communities, but are they listening to feedback from the community? Are the jobs quality jobs? Are you creating situations where you're gentrifying areas and pushing people who used to live there out? And so, who's really benefiting from this kind of investment? And who's taking risk and not being compensated for it? And so after an entire career in finance since 2004, I stayed in touch with CPD. I was in finance, and I realized at a certain point, oh, actually, I just realized I should clarify one detail. So the founders of Make the Road went on to start CPD. So that's the connection between the two. So now I follow both Make the Road and CPD, but I'm more in touch with CPD. And anyway, after many years in finance, I realized that some of the investment structures themselves have issues. I was working with companies that the investors invest into to be more responsible. So if you think, for instance, of a food processing company, you want to make sure that they treat their workers well, and you want to make sure that the waste is managed properly and doesn't pollute the community, and that there are good health and safety standards in place, and that people have living wages. But I started to realize that if the people in finance are making so much more money than the workers in these companies that they're investing into, then that's a problem that systemically undermines the positive impacts that you might have at the portfolio company level. And so I became very fascinated with this idea of we need to look at finance itself, not there are a lot of financial professionals who mean really well, and they think, oh, we need to look at what they call environmental, social, and governance, or impact investing issues at the portfolio company level. But we actually need to take a step back ourselves in finance and think about the way we structure investments. So, so we're really interested in exploring what more regenerative financial structures look like, that will meet the needs of community and civil society and workers and investors. In this convention, we're specifically going to do a high-level overview of private equity, which is one kind of investing, or finance. That's going to be my session. I'm doing it with Renee Manley and Magat Diop from SEIU, the labor advocacy organization that also has pension funds that invest into types of finance like private equity, as well as Pilar Sorensen from the Private Equity Stakeholder Project, where they look at very specific issues at the portfolio company level that can have negative impacts on society, like, for instance, a private security or private prison or detention center that stakeholders have some concerns about. The Private Equity Stakeholder Project has been involved with a number of advocacy campaigns around that, around making hospitals that are owned by private equity more responsible. Housing is owned by private equity. How do we work with private equity firms to ensure that housing is affordable for people and that there aren't extractive levels of rent? So that's our session, and I'm really excited about it. We're going to be doing an overview generally of how private equity works, and then we're going to get into some of the work that both SEIU and the Private Equity Stakeholder Project have done. There are also going to be 2 other sessions like this. They're long sessions so that we can really get through the issues, and you can learn about how finance works. The private equity session is designed to be about 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on the Q&A. And there's also going to be one on banks that's going to be an hour, and that's going to have Ariel Meyerstein from Citigroup and Bupal Gupta from Pacific Community Ventures. Citi, we're all familiar with. They do both banking for everyday people, but they also do banking for big companies. So learn about that. And then Pacific Community Ventures, Bupal's firm, does CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution investing. And so you can learn about that, and in any of these sessions, voice your concerns or questions to any of us. And we have one other session on stocks and bonds that Paul Rissman from Rights CoLab, it's an organization focused on bringing together civil society investors. He's going to talk about stocks, and Ryan Bowers from Activist is going to talk about municipal finance. And so, when we think about issues like the RTD, the Rapid Transit Denver system that Jeff talked about, and how they finance their contracts with groups like Allied, municipal finance is one of those ways that happens. And so you can learn about how to engage with investors to make sure that they're aware of some of these issues and risks that underlie their investments, and how they can help ally with you in trying to address those problems. Mm-hmm. We have 3 potential other speakers, but I want to stop because I've been talking a long time and I'm not sure how long I'm supposed to talk for.
Tell us who the other speakers are.
Okay. So I am pretty sure that we have Jasmine Rashid from Candide Group confirmed. She has been involved with some really amazing work with investors who want to invest responsibly and in ways that have positive impacts for community. And she also wrote a great article that you might want to look up called The Financial Activist Playbook for Supporting Black Lives. And it can help you think through how you want to use your money, what banks you might want to work with, if you have some money to invest, how to invest in ways that are regenerative and supportive for society. Edgar Villanueva, he is confirmed, and he's done some amazing work on how to make philanthropy more responsive to communities' needs and ensure that philanthropy doesn't recreate cycles of dependency, and that community is really involved with the actual design of philanthropic initiatives. And then we might have somebody from Common Future, which is focused on democratizing ownership and investing in community. So I recommend that you take a look at the agenda and look out for those sessions. And I hope you can join us.
I think there's this, what this makes me think about, there's this woman in Memphis, Miss Dorothy, and she used to always be like, always follow the money, Shannon. And I never quite knew what that meant. But then, and it can feel like, I think for like the everyday person, like, oh, this is so over my head, but this is very, I think, important knowledge, and I think that it's accessible for us, and it is a way for us to hold our stakeholders and people in power accountable, because it's money, it's what runs all of us, so it can feel, I think, overwhelming, but I just want to say, like, it's super important knowledge for change, and like having had and having continued to the ability to get to work with Delilah, like she just like breaks it down in a way where I'm like, okay, like I can understand like what our next steps are. Like I want to share, but I know we're not supposed to on here, probably what we've been working on, but she breaks it down in a way that I can understand, So yeah, I think those will be really great sessions.
Okay.
Okay, well, I am seeing that we don't have questions from folks in the audience. But if you have any, like pop them in last minute. I guess my question to y'all would be, how do you hope that folks will continue this work after the summit? So that could be like, with what you present, what can people continue to do after the summit? But also maybe what do you hope to gain as an individual from it and carry into your work?
Well, yeah, I'm particularly, grateful just to be a part of this summit. And I've been a part of a lot of things like this in the past. And, it's funny, you go to these things, you get really excited. And then, months or hours later, you don't remember what anybody had to say. And you don't have any action items, any takeaways, any things to do, any tools to walk away with, to apply to the work that you're doing. I'm particularly excited and grateful for the work that Delilah does, in showing organizers how to engage in the investment piece of these institutions and companies, that may be structurally or systematically marginalized, part of marginalizing groups of citizens. So I'm particularly grateful for that insight that you guys bring to the table. And I want to walk away with, takeaways, things that we can do that we can apply directly to what we're dealing with here with Justice for Raverro. I'm excited in general about this concept, and I hope that it lives on in the virtual space so we can refer back to it and continue to engage. And the thing about it is these dialogues, they have to continue. It's so difficult to build momentum among folks because, you know, we're struggling with our day-to-day, you know, to keep the lights on, to keep the rent going, to keep all of that going, to keep our families safe and healthy. So we're struggling with that, and that can be such a barrier for engagement for the average person. Then once you get over that barrier, then it's the bureaucracy that you have to deal with, you know, and the games that folks play, like RTD has been playing with us, like removing the phone number to log into the public comment line, just taking it off their website on the day that that public comment is supposed to happen, so that we don't know how to get in and be a part of the process. Or, you know, just the obstruction that happens, you know, on the governmental all the time is so blatant and so pervasive, so common, that, you know, that's a real challenge. So keeping people engaged is such a difficult piece, but we have to stay there. So you know, big, huge productions, big, huge summits like this one are important, but it's those little day-to-day, that mundane piece of, you know, sending an email and lobbying your legislators. It's that mundane little day-to-day stuff that has to continue beyond the star-studded summit, beyond the big international and national campaigns that go on. You got to be able to dig your fingers in and do the dirty work.
Yeah, well said, Jeff, and well said about what you're excited about and the and doing the dirty work. And I really appreciate. I can't say well said about you having such kind words for me, but thank you. And again, I hope I live up to expectations. Yeah, I'm really excited to learn from everybody. I think that one of the issues with being in the investment space, I lived in New York for 19 years, and you know, I should have said that, you know, in finance, there's this trend or phenomenon or belief system and way of investing that's come to be very popular, this environmental, social, and governance and impact investing, where we want to have positive impacts in our investments and reduce the negative impacts. But I think that sometimes when we operate in a financial system that is so complex and with so many different layers and so many different intermediaries that the money passes through, sometimes you just become alienated from what the real world, what's going on in the real world, how your investments are really impacting people. As somebody who works in finance, you might rely on the corporate executives of the companies that you invest into to tell you how their workers are doing or how their communities are doing. And you know that you're not hearing directly from the workers or communities. And so I think that this convention and the path that we're all on is really critical to start building bridges between investors and civil society, everyday people, workers, communities, so we can learn from each other. We can just start talking and coming up with better solutions. And you know, Jeff, one other thing that you said that that really impacted me was building empathy. And I think that it's a huge opportunity to build empathy. So I've learned so much from you, Jeff and Shannon, and I'm excited to learn more and to get to know more people.
Thank you. Well, as
just warm and fuzzy all around.
It is. Thank you both so much, and thank you to everyone that has tuned in. As Adrian said earlier, there are codes out there, so you know, The cost is $25, and this is a fundraising effort for Center for Popular Democracy. So if you're able to give, please do support all of this really good grassroots community organizing work. But if you want to attend and that's not financially possible for you, please reach out to us. The email, I don't know if they're able to put it up there, but I'll just say it really quickly, is from allies to abolitionists@gmail.com. So if you're watching this and you need a code, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to get you there. And I think, unless there are any final thoughts from y'all, we will close out.
Just want to say thank you, Shannon. Thank you for all your work and all your leadership. You've done an amazing job, and you know, I'm so grateful to have you working with me with this, because really couldn't get this far without you. I'm glad you understand what Delilah's talking about, because I mean, them acronyms and, you know.
I need to get better at that. So you're really helping me by pointing out that that I still have improvement. So it's not intentional.
I'll be on the Zoom with Delilah and I just be Googling, make sure, what is she talking about?
Yeah, no, it's a really good reminder that it's important for me to explain the jargon, the industry jargon that we've all sort of internalized in our heads.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Talk about alienation, you know, words that don't mean anything to anybody else.
We appreciate you educating us, so we appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you spending time with us to outline the issues and the advocacy work that you're doing. It's really important, and we wouldn't know about it otherwise. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this big love fest, and thank you to Headroom Sessions and Elle and Skylar and Steven for helping us get this out to so many people. Yeah, I hope you all have a great afternoon and evening.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Is it as simple as you claim it to be? Don't break laws, no robberies, but I've been robbing myself blind. I've been robbing myself for some time. Help me keep my peace of mind. This brain that's running to my spine is open for business. I'll be what you want from me. I'll root down to a peaceful tree, one branch of forgiveness.